Well, Chris, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks. Yeah.
And we had quite a few conversations already.
Yep.
And you have a very unusual background. And I would love for you to kind of walk us through it, because
Sure.
it is a testimony to what kind of very talented, focused, diligent, and lethal individual you are.
Lethal.
Yeah,
I like that word.
on
I
many
like that word.
ways.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I'll go high level. Did 23 years in the military. 13 of those years was on active duty. 10 years was as a reservist. While I was a reservist, I was a police officer. Did 1 year in Honolulu, 9 years in San Diego. So police, military is my background. When I first joined the military, I was a Chinese linguist. I did that for about 9 years.
So it's too fast. Chinese linguist.
Chinese
So
linguist.
for anybody who's listening and actually not watching,
Mhm.
he's not Chinese.
I know I'm not Chinese. I'm not. So I took Chinese back in 1994. Went to language school, Monterey, California. The Navy sent me there. So I had a choice of Arabic, Russian, or Chinese. And so this was the mid-90s. The Russian mission was boring. The Cold War was over, so there's no interest in I had no interest in the Russian language. Arabic at the time wasn't interesting to me because I wasn't really interested in the Middle East. Had I joined after 2011, obviously it would have been Arabic. And then my mom always told me, said, if you want to do business, you got to learn Chinese. So I said, okay, I guess I'll take Chinese. So there's really no other inspiration behind it other than, I guess I'll take Chinese because my mom told me to.
Mm-hmm. But still, you learn Chinese
I did.
at a level that's high enough that the military were relying and depending on
Correct.
your work.
Correct. I got to a point where when the Chinese Navy came to visit Pearl Harbor, I think it was in 1998, I was sent down to Pearl Harbor. I was stationed in Hawaii to translate. So I would translate when we had U.S. citizens go on tours on Chinese ships. I would translate what the Chinese sailor was saying to the visitors and vice versa. So I got to a point where I could do that. It's not easy, but I was able to do it at a point in my life. I can't do that right now.
Yeah, fascinating. And so now, what do you do now? And because military, learning Chinese, that's a whole thing on its own. Military, police officer, and now what?
So now I own a construction company. We currently operate in 2 states. Washington State and Texas, here in Houston where I live. So I don't have a construction background. I don't know how to swing a hammer. If you give one to me, I'd probably throw it because I don't know what to do with it. But what I like the industry, and I love business. So the way I got into construction is when I went to Afghanistan in 2009.
So that's the thing I was going to talk about, because I
Okay.
found it fascinating.
Okay, sure. In 2009, I volunteered to go to Afghanistan. There's a billet to go fly drones for special forces. And so basically what the drone would do would fly over a battlefield area before the team got there so they can see what it looks like, right? Especially at nighttime, you have the IR camera. You can see if there's heat sources or if you camp out at night.
Recon.
Correct. Right. You're just making sure, hey, I know we're going to be safe. I don't see heat sources. I don't see people moving around. Or I see somebody, let's go investigate, right? So that's what my job was. When I got there, I was the first person there. And they said, hey, Chris, welcome to Afghanistan. Here's a dirt field. You have to build your operations center. And I said, well, I don't know anything about construction. And they said, well, you're going to learn, right? We're not sending you home. You're here, and you're going to do this job. So they gave me plans. They gave me...
Did they look Chinese?
No, there's no Chinese out there.
That I'm saying, when you look at the plan, if it's the first time you ever encountered, construction plans and all this.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and I was very overwhelmed and intimidating because I had never studied this stuff before. So I had to learn it and ask a lot of questions. And it was good for me, looking back, of course. So I would, I'd have to take these plans. They're sending me the material, and I have to go find a bunch of Afghanis who could do this job for me. My subcontractors were Afghanis. So what I did was I just found a bunch of people at neighboring bases who kind of knew a little something about whatever, electrical, plumbing, or whatever. And I said, hey, can you tell me what this means? What am I supposed to do here? In what order should I be doing these things, right? So I learned, put a foundation together. You do that first, and then you run the electrical and this and that. So there's a lot of learning in that, a lot of waiting around because we had to wait for supply material to come in, providing updates to the higher headquarters, letting them know what's going on. So that whole process of documenting what was going on and sending that
and
to
communication.
Correct.
Because that's what, like, currently that's your superpower, the ability to get the teams to communicate properly and all this.
Exactly.
It literally came from starting from scratch, dirt.
Exactly.
Literally.
Exactly.
And foreign languages, because Afghanis obviously foreign language, then communicating back to the U.S. what's going on, and you were kind of stuck in the middle, juggling all this.
Exactly. I had to be the eyes and ears for the guys in the U.S. wondering what was going on with our site. So I had to provide all the documentation, provide all of the updates, so that they can feel like, okay, we know what's going on. We feel confident that we're all on the same page here. So we got to a point where, no plan's perfect. So we got the plans, and the plans did not have a bathroom in the plans. So the closest bathroom, unless you were going to dig a hole, the closest bathroom to go to is about a 20-minute drive. So if we're in the middle of a mission and you have to hey, I got to go to the bathroom, drive 20 minutes, do your thing, 20 minutes back, almost an hour, right? So I had to convince to get more funding to build a bathroom. So I was able to do that. We got a shipping container, turned it into a bathroom. We got urinal showers, toilet sinks. And then I set it up, and we got running water. We put a tank on top. I talked to the firefighters at a nearby base. I convinced them, hey, if you guys come over here, there's a rumor that we had the best food in the area. Not true. We had the same food. They just thought ours was best. So firefighters love to eat. So I said, you can come have a meal whenever you fill up our water, have a meal at our place, and then, we'll see you next month or whatever it might be. So I had that, and then someone asked me once at dinner, so what happens when you flush the toilet? I said, that's a good question. He goes, what are you doing for septic? I'm like, I have no idea what septic is. What's that? What happens when you flush the toilet? Where's all the stuff going to go? I'm like, dang, I didn't think of that. So we had to figure out where the waste was going to go. So what I did was we were on an old abandoned Russian air base, and they had left tanks and jets and these big old oil drums and things. So we found an oil drum. We brought it over to our site. We put someone inside to seal it all up with paint. We dug a hole, put the drum down in there, put a pipe from the bathroom into that drum. That's our septic tank. So I learned a lot.
The hard way, and as you go, literally.
Right.
So when you see, because here we went to the granular of literally what you faced,
right,
and to demonstrate that construction is not your background.
Correct.
However, coordinating and finding solutions and making sure it works.
Correct.
For individuals that are they don't have time to actually mess around with bathrooms. Exactly. They're getting ready to go on a mission. There's literally life and death.
Exactly.
So the responsibility is quite heavy, even though it may not come across all the logistics that come with, supporting special forces.
Exactly.
So now, how does that translate into what you do today in Washington and today in Texas?
So, we talk a lot about, we focus on communication, efficiency, and documentation. The documentation comes from when I was a police officer, and every case you go to, you collect evidence, right? So you don't know what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road. There might be some kind of lawsuit or whatever it might be. You need to go to a place and have all that documentation, videos, photos, contracts, whatever it might be. So we focus a lot on that, not just for the legal protection thing, but...
So you're talking about your construction.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. So, because just to kind of clarify,
right,
your superpower today is your ability to build and to remodel or whatever it is, to run crews that are super efficient and get the job done fast,
right,
exactly as they're supposed to get it done,
right,
have everything perfectly documented and set up, the SOPs and everything done, the communication between the teams and the crews, between the plumbers and the tile guy and the whoever, working smoothly so that it gets done faster and cheaper with less hiccups.
Correct.
That's your superpower today.
It is creating the systems behind that, from communication from the subs swinging the hammers all the way to the communication to not just the investor, but their lenders as well. So we know how to communicate to each person who's a part of that project.
To reassure the investors, to reassure the partners and everything
Correct.
that is going to get done.
Correct.
Versus like, hoping it's going to happen the right way, and there's not like budget going way above, because that's the big problem.
Correct.
People invest, and then eventually the contractors come back and say, well, you know what, we're needing another X amount of money because we didn't take that into account, didn't take that into account.
Do that.
You don't do that. You learn your lesson in Afghanistan with with the septic and all the stuff.
Exactly.
We think of it all.
We have to think through all that stuff. There's times where we would come across a scenario, and we don't do this often, but when we do, it's like, hey, you know what, that's on us. I'm not even going to tell the investor. We're just going to cover it because that's not their problem. That's mine. We made the mistake, right? So, but we've learned and we've done pretty well to where we're confident when we give a proposal, that's our number, unless we open up a wall and there's something we could not have seen, of course. But no, if our proposal is our proposal. We're not going to say, hey, we need more money because we forgot this. That's not good.
That's the nightmare of investors. I mean, whether it's a private investor that like invests into a project,
Correct.
or a family.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you can get somebody to show up, say, I need to do a remodel on a bathroom. He gives you an estimate, and then it comes like a week later, say, you know what, we need more money because blah, 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 blah happened.
I don't like that. That's
I mean, nobody likes that. It's horrible.
It's bad business, yeah.
So what is it that you come into BA, what is it that you see yourself, contributing at BA? Because already you have conversation lined up with other builders that need help with the systems and implementations and teams and whatnot. But what other contribution, what are you looking to share and receive?
One thing, we talked about the systems that we create, the documentation, we create SOPs, and that's a process, and I love helping other business owners understand the purpose behind it and what we do. This is what we do. Feel free to copy it. If not, make it your own, whatever. I enjoy that. The other thing I enjoy doing is creating a team and team culture, and taking that team and plug it into the system. And then, because if you don't have a team, you don't have systems. Stan was just talking about it in there. You don't have a business, you have a job. So you have to have the team, the systems, the team's running the systems, and then you could step away from the day-to-day, right? Mm-hmm. And then now you have a business owner, you can think on bigger things. So I like to help people find team members, and I focus on remote team members. My back office admin team, they're all in Mexico. So I have stay-at-home moms who quit their jobs to support their husbands, but they have these amazing skills. They have a degree, they have corporate experience, and they still want to work, but they're taking care of the kids. I offer them an opportunity where they can actually use their skills, help build a company, and still be a mom. And so I rely heavily on my team. They've been with me for years now. And if I take a day off, it's because Alma in Guadalajara is running my company for me. And so I could take a week off and focus on building the company here at BA. So I like to share that story with people, and they're very curious about it, especially in the construction world. How do you do that?
Especially thinking because construction is so, like tactile, it's so hands-on, it's so present, it's in the moment, in the place.
Yeah.
So to imagine that a construction company here in Texas could possibly have, the team members that would be in Mexico or Argentina or wherever it is something that sounds very foreign.
Yeah, it is.
Like literally.
Yeah, it is. When I talk to people, they're like, wait, how do you do this? What do you do? How does this work? And, I go to business meetups. I have my own business meetup I do every Tuesday morning. And I have a few people in the trades in there. And I talk about this. And they're like, hey, can we meet one-on-one? Because I want you to show me how to do this. And I've showed a lot of people how to do it. I created a video course on how I did it and how my team runs my company and allows me to step away. I love that stuff because, one, it helps the business owner. Because you can get excellent talent at the fraction of the price. It helps people down in Mexico earn money at a reasonable price where they are, and they can still be a mom, right? Yeah. And so it's just a win for everybody.
And also, it's interesting because what you mentioned, like get the great talent at a fraction of the price. So obviously, these people are not being hired in the U.S. However, the beauty of it is allows the company to grow and therefore hire more people to actually get bigger, faster, and stronger and more efficient. So it's not a detriment of anyone.
Correct.
It's the benefit of all.
Exactly. My payroll right now is probably about maybe $8,000 a month, and I've got a team of 4. If I had that same team here in the U.S., I'd be paying maybe $40 a month, right? So and they got the same talent, same skills. They're amazing. I love them. I couldn't do this without them. And I take as much opportunity as I can to tell more people about it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Now, when it comes to where do you see yourself, in the next, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Like, what is your target? What are you trying to achieve?
I do enjoy what I do as far as the construction and running the company, but I know that's not the only thing. The thing that I enjoy the most is helping other people and businesses understand the remote team aspect. How do you scale a team, or how do you scale your business with a remote team? How do you create systems? I like when people, they have this great idea and they got a great business and doing great, but they're just going crazy because everything's a mess. I like cleaning up messes. And I like to help people do that, help them figure out how to create systems behind everything.
That's a unique talent. Because I'm like scattered. Yeah. I mean, like I'm scattered. Like a mess of beans on the floor. That's how scattered I am. And some people, however, they are able to take that and actually create system, clean it up, and see pass through it. And we were discussing yesterday with Ben, who's helping individuals that have issues with IRS. And it can be very embarrassing to actually talk to somebody saying I have an issue with the IRS. Right. And certainly it's embarrassing to come to somebody like you, say my business is a mess. Mm-hmm. So I like, because we've been talking quite a bit, and I can see how you're judgmental, like judgment free. Sure, there's no judgmental attitude and perception when we talk together, and it's reassuring to know that we can talk to you and open up about like the mess that we do have, whatnot, and get the help. And I know the BA members would love to because it takes like the creative tend to be messy, and a lot of creative power in that room.
Exactly. And I'm not saying my business is perfect, right?
Yeah.
We got our messes that we're dealing with, right? You just prioritize and attack the one that's the most urgent. But I enjoy it. I've got a team member on my team specifically to create my SOPs for me. And it's a lot of fun. It's cool. And, everyone's got a mess. Even the one who says they've got a great business, they got some kind of mess.
Of course.
So it's don't be embarrassed about it, right?
Yeah. I love it. And I like the way you actually you describe that SOP, creates joy, because actually it removes a lot of friction, a lot of guesswork, a lot of stress, a lot of other stuff, and eventually it makes running a business more pleasurable, but also allows to have a clear vision as to what's really possible. Exactly. Because once you have the SOP in place, you say, oh, that actually can run on its own, or we know exactly who to plug in it, therefore we can scale it. So it brings that reassurance.
It does, yeah. And then the other thing that we're finding when we create an SOP on our team, and when somebody makes a decision, whether they forgot or whatever, and they don't follow the SOP, we can say, hey, look, SOP says this. We have to follow the SOP. We all read it. We all agreed to it, right? And it's not mean old Chris micromanaging the team. It's, hey, we all agreed to this. We wrote it. We all signed it. So this is the rules here. So let's follow it.
So this is the foundation that actually allows everybody to be on the same page, like literally. Mm-hmm. And that's actually we had discussed things like that. But this is the principle. Like when you have whether it's a couple or whoever, when you use the Bible as a foundation of this is the principle. Mm-hmm. So you can't argue with that. That's the principle. We agreed on it. We do it. And the same with the SOP and all this. Yeah, and that gives a beautiful way to remove a lot of friction, because we all agreed on it. So I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, well, it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you for
it really
the
was.
opportunity. I appreciate it.
And we're looking forward to seeing you again at BA, and your contribution will be really enjoyed, because we see already what you had talked about yesterday and your different contributions, how it just really sparks the interest in people. So I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.